Makwanda Show.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Mari Mukonda Show on Salam Media. It is 11:29 on this Tuesday, the 16th of February, 2021. There are two kinds of abandonment: physical and emotional. Physical abandonment is pretty self-explanatory. It's the person has moved out or left the marriage and family. The other type of abandonment is emotional. It can be just as devastating to the family, especially if it's not understood. Here to tell us more about this topic, emotional abandonment, and what you should do when your spouse shuts you out, is marriage counselor, hypnotherapist, and the director of Phoenix Life Improvement, Aadila Pretorius. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Aadila.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for having me.
Alhamdulillah, shukran for joining us. So, help us understand what emotional abandonment is.
I think, first of all, people need to understand that emotional abandonment truly refers to when one of the partners has emotionally detached from their partner, when they do no longer emotionally invest in the relationship, and when the emotional needs are not being met or seen to in a relationship, and you can't really connect to that person anymore. So yeah, in a nutshell, it's really one of the parties have emotionally left, and it is a form of invisible divorce that's starting to take place, which is of course very concerning, when your relationship has reached that level of abandonment in that sense.
Now, how common is this emotional abandonment?
It's relatively common, and there's an increase in that in what we see, simply because of the fact that men and women do not always understand each other, for one, and they don't communicate, so the more you tolerate and don't talk about issues, the more the resentment builds up, because initially, there's really like the 4 stages that we talk about, and the first stage is where you feel annoyed with certain of the behaviors that your partner is doing. And you have that resistance against it, but you're not, it's not leading anywhere. And then, of course, it is that you start later on, because you're not communicating, there is the resentment that starts to set in, because now you're resenting your partner because you're feeling unhappy. The next level is where the rejection starts coming in, and that's already the start of that emotional detachment, because now you're starting to reject your partner. And then obviously the last stage is where the repressed emotions come in, where there is no growth in the relationship, there's no growth for you as a person, because now all your emotions of whatever it is that your partner is doing, that you are certain behaviors that you're not happy with, you have now repressed it, you have packed it away, but now you're detaching, because there's no reason for you to want to be emotionally involved anymore with your partner. So it is prevalent, it's becoming more and more, and it's sad, because if we can just we all just have to really look inside ourselves, do introspection, and see what can I do differently. But yeah, I'm sure, the conversation and, this interview will unpack some of these tools that we can use.
All right. What are the telltale signs of emotional abandonment?
Well, from the person that is abandoning the other partner, they can come across as preoccupied, always too busy, cold, they ignore you, they're unable to empathize with you, that type of thing. So those are telltale signs that this person they're not as available as they probably used to be in the beginning of the relationship. And yes, of course, the party that's on the receiving end will go through feelings of feeling alone, feeling rejected, not understanding. And that can lead to anxiety and depression for the other party. So yeah, those are some of the signs of emotional abandonment.
And Earlier, I asked about how common is it, and is it common within the first few years of marriage or after some time of marriage?
It's normally what we see after some time of marriage or being in a relationship for some time.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, during the first 2 years, some people are still in the honeymoon phase, or it's 2 years of quite a lot of turbulence because they're getting to understand each other and boundaries and that type of thing. So there's still a lot of energy going on. But as time progresses and they get to know each other better, um, then certain behaviors start to surface because now it's no more this pretense of being, putting your best foot forward. And this is normally what happens is now you're getting to know the real person. And that is when the wheel starts coming off because you cannot change other people.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, now you have to navigate how do you work with issues that you are
Mm-hmm.
unhappy with. Yeah, so it is normally in the later stages of marriage that we see this.
Mm-hmm. All right. What do you do when your spouse shuts you out? How do you get through this emotional abandonment?
Well, there's not much that you can really do other than taking responsibility for how did you get in this place that you find your relationship at. And that is sometimes the hardest thing for people to be able to do is to see how did I contribute um,
Mm-hmm.
to this person withdrawing from me. And the same can be said of the person that has abandoned the relationship because
Mm-hmm.
both parties are responsible. And again, it is to move away from, but he needs to change or she needs to change. It
Mm-hmm.
is really to look inside and say, am I meeting um, my value system as it is expected within a marriage? Am I contributing to the emotional needs of my partner? Do I understand his or her needs? So really to be emotionally connected, you really want to be known, who you are on the inside. So,
Mm-hmm.
and for couples to rectify that is really communication, seeking to validate, seeking to understand. And there's various things for men and women that are important in relationships that can help this process so that we can rebuild the connection or keep the connection because you don't want your relationship to reach that place where there's an emotional abandonment from either of the parties.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to the person who is being emotionally unavailable, like what if it's you, and how would you know that you are the person who is abandoning your spouse?
I think the thing is it has a lot to do with again your own self-awareness, your own
Mm-hmm.
self regulation. When you start seeing there's certain things that my partner does, and I'm
Yeah.
not actually raising the issue. I am not talking about it, and it boils down to being self-aware. Is where am I at? Am I
Mm-hmm.
connecting with my partner? Because when you start seeing, but I don't have that wanting to be near this person, or I don't want to share my day or my joys or my pleasures with this person, those are red flags coming up for you because now you're starting to withdraw each day a little bit more, and over a long period. You just basically roommates, where you can lie right next to that person, but there's no emotional attachment, there's no emotional need to be with your partner. So yes, it's got a lot to do with self-awareness, taking responsibility, and stop it before it starts. In other words, rather learn communication, learn to talk. But it's not always, it's easier said than done for many because the root cause of this all for many goes back to childhood, where there was childhood abandonment. And we tend to repeat these lessons in our, when we are married, because the psyche is trying to heal itself from what went wrong in childhood. So they're trying to reclaim certain parts that they've lost, self-worth, self-love, self-respect, and all these kind of things.
Hmm. And what happens when children are involved, when children comes into the relationship and like everything was fine and now all of a sudden things change because of the children?
Okay, if you can just clarify to me, look, in the sense you need to understand because children are very, very aware and they're very intelligent. You know, we tend to underestimate the abilities that children have in observation because children learn through their eyes and their ears. And they pick up everything, and they will also pick up what we call the vibe in the house, the atmosphere in the house. So they can very easily see mom and dad are not that connected, you know, and then the sad part is they learn from that. Children do what we do, and they will accept that as normal. And truly, it is an unhealthy relationship. So, if we are what I would call a warped mirror to our children, that's what they will become. So it's very important that we realize the responsibility that we have as parents to put our relationship first. Because if you're in a good relationship, that is what your child will, inshallah, aspire to. So yes, emotional abandonment will affect the children. Otherwise, you'll have to be a very good actor or actress in order to hide that your relationship is not on par. And
Hmm.
that's difficult for most people.
Yeah, well, imagine living a lie to yourself and your children and everybody else, pretending that everything is okay when it isn't. I came across something called stonewalling. Is this similar to emotional abandonment?
Yes, it's very similar. That is really what it is. In other words, this person starts to build such a wall around themselves, and it's statistically more among men. Um, that a lot of times this happen. Not that it doesn't happen among women, but the stonewalling really refers to that emotional abandonment where you cannot get. If you think of a stone wall, you can't get through. You cannot get through to that person. So yeah, it is absolutely a term that is used in relation to this, and rightfully so, because that's what it boils down to. That person is, you see, the thing is, for us to be emotionally connected,
Hmm.
there needs to be emotional security.
Yeah.
Because if there's emotional security, that's when you can become vulnerable, where you can be your authentic self. So it's very, very important that emotional security is in a relationship. And that means you need to be emotionally intimate with a person. And that is to know the person, like what we discussed earlier. Because without that, there is no security in the relationship. And that means you cannot be vulnerable. You cannot let your guard down and be yourself and feel safe. So how do you build that emotional intimacy without it? If
Adila, we have just lost Adila. The connection was not great, but still speaking about stonewalling, many times stonewalling in a relationship is obvious. However, it can also be subtle, and you may not realize that you or your partner are engaging in stonewalling. Signs could include ignoring what the other person is saying, changing the subject to avoid an uncomfortable topic, storming off without a word, coming up with reasons why they can't talk, refusing to answer questions, making accusations rather than talking about a current problem, using dismissive body language such as rolling or closing their eyes, engaging in passive aggressive behavior such as stalling or procrastinating to avoid talking about a problem, refusing to ever acknowledge their stonewalling behavior. Adila, we lost you there for a bit, but shukran for coming back. Now, when it comes to stonewalling, I just shared a few of the signs or symptoms that some we can be aware of when it comes to stonewalling. And you know, one of them is that that actually caught my attention was this. Refusing to ever acknowledge their stonewalling behavior. Like, will you point this out to your partner and their partner just refuses to agree that they have a problem, and will also use dismissive body language, roll their eyes, and walk away. Now, how do you deal with such a situation? All right, Adila, we're going to take a quick break, and we will continue when we return. Hopefully, by then, the connection will be better. Do stay with us. You are listening to the Mara Mukwanda Show.
Days, there are thousands of refugees in Afghanistan and Lebanon who will not survive their winter.
Africa.
You can change that by sponsoring an AMA Winter Rescue Kit for 3,500 rands. Contact Africa Muslims Agency now on 011 834 8685 or donate online at africamuslimsagency.co.za. Africa Muslims Agency, inspiring the spirit of giving.
What makes Randery Jewelers the optimum place for your memorable gift? Is it our range of exclusive, high-end, luxurious jewellery? Or is it our master craftsmanship of all your bespoke jewellery needs? We believe it's because at Randery Jewelers, we know just how to make your special moments last forever. Whether it's for a wedding, anniversary, or just a simple gift to show your love, trust Randery Jewelers to make it special. www.randeryjewelers.com. Make your moments last forever with Randery Jewelers, the family name you can trust.
Endurance Boys College ke sekolo sa boarding and day se se ikemego se agilwe meleng wa lephefo wa N1 Polokwane. Re tlhotlheletsa thuto ye tlhwatlhwa ya monagano le maikutlo lefelong la maleba la go akaretsa botlhe. Re buša re latela melago ya NCS CAPS curriculum, ra ba ra neela ka madulo a bašimane ba mphato wa botshelela go fitlha ka marematlou, ebile re na le didirišwa tša boarding tša mphato wa botshelela go ba go fitlha ka marematlou. Maikemišetšo a Endurance College ke go fana ka thuto ya boleng bja maemo a godimo bjo bo tlhotlheletšago botho. Endurance College ke legae la bobedi la polokego le totego. E ngwadišitšwe le lefapha la thuto e le go Umalusi. Tsebo ka botlalo e hwetša nomorong ya 078 452 6264. 078 452 6264. Re hwetša gape go Facebook le Instagram goba o re romele email go polokwane@endurancecolleges.co.za.
This is Salam Media, and you are tuned into the Miriam Mukwanda Show.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Mara Mukwanda Show on Salam Media. And on the other side, I've got therapist, coach Aadila Pretorius, and we are talking about emotional abandonment and what to do when your spouse shuts you out. So Aadila, before the break, I'm not sure if you heard me, where we were talking about stonewalling, and one of the signs is the partner not acknowledging the fact that they have this behavior and would then roll their eyes and make accusations, basically won't admit that they have a problem. So how do you then get through such?
Well, number one, you cannot change that person. And if they don't want to acknowledge it, you're also not going to get them to acknowledge it. Deep down inside, they know what they are busy doing. And remember one thing, for a person to have reached that place, it could be due to judgment, criticism, labeling, accusations, and that type of thing. So when you go down that path of you like this and you stonewalling, you are coming from a place of wanting to help that person, but ultimately you're actually pushing that person further away. And this is where the introspection needs to come in for both parties, because both parties, again, like I said in the beginning, need to take responsibility. How did we get ourselves into this pit and how do we get out of it? In other words, what can I do differently? Because everything will change when I change. And that is a bitter pill or a huge thing for many people to take in, because many people grapple, but he's the one with the problem. Then the question is, how did you get to that problem? Because there are two parties in a relationship and both have certain behaviors that may not be comfortable for the other party. How well do you communicate this? So again, when a person is stonewalling you, there's very little you can do about it. You can only work on yourself. For example, if let's say the husband is stonewalling the wife, and the wife, like I said in the beginning, now it's again the criticism, the judgment, the fighting, you like this and you doing this, and I want to talk, and you go with the demands, that wall is just going to become a bigger stone wall in front of you. And ideally, it's to retract and to go and do that introspection and see how much acceptance do you show your husband? How much appreciation do you show him? Do you stand in awe of him? And the next one is respect, and that is mutual respect, because both parties want to be respected. But okay, in this example, to stay with the example for now, is when you, let's say, because we know that some of the biggest things that trouble men, that men don't like, is they say women nag, women constantly complain, they don't trust me, they don't respect me, is when you, for example, want something to be done around the house, is do you constantly nag, or when he hasn't done it, do you give him the angry eyes and again attack? Or, and that is what happens. Or can you in a light-hearted way say, oh honey, just remember to do this next time, and don't, because you see what, try not then to make the eye contact when it is something that you know he has forgotten or he hasn't done, because your eyes cannot hide what you're truly feeling. So in a light-hearted way, it's to still say, oh, or make a list of to-dos that he perhaps needs to do, and just say, honey, here's the list when you have time, in a light-hearted way. Because if you constantly nag or complain and you give angry eyes, the stone wall will go up, because now you're not showing acceptance, you're not showing I trust that you will do these things, and that is where all the strife and difficulty comes from, and the same can be said if we reverse the roles. If a woman doesn't feel understood, if she doesn't receive empathy, because a woman truly really wants to be heard and understood and receive that nurturing, loving energy, if she constantly hears, no, but you need to do this and fix it, do it that way, it makes her feel that she is not good enough to solve her own problems, and her wall goes up. So again, it is that communication skills that we need to understand. It's how we talk. We can still say this needs to be done or this or that, but it's how do you say it that we're not always aware of. And it's, remember, if a person throughout the years are constantly being criticized or labeled or this or that, they're going to withdraw at some point. And at the same time, if there is unwanted or unacceptable behavior from another partner, the other person can also withdraw. So you can see that both parties are equally responsible to say, what is it about me that I need to change? Because what you resist will persist until you learn the lesson. So in other words, if you're not going to see, but what can I do differently so that I get a different result? Because if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get the same result. So I need to change so I get a different result. And that is truly how you can learn to start overcome. And if you change your approach, you change your attitude, you change how you talk to each other, and you try to learn about each other's needs, in all respects, that is when the stonewalling, and this abandonment can be rectified. But it takes time and effort and really that self-regulation and self-awareness and desire that you want to save the relationship.
All right, Aadila, that's all the time that we have for today. Please share your contact details with our listeners and viewers.
My cell number is 0721 990 432. And my email address is Aadila, Aadila at Phoenix, PHOENIX life.co.za. And our website is www.phoenix-life.co.za.
All right. So shukran so much and have a wonderful day.
Shukran jazilan. Thank you for having me.
Fine. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
That was therapist, coach, and the director of Phoenix Life Improvement, Aadila Pretorius, taking us through emotional abandonment and what you should do when your spouse shuts you out. Definitely not an easy way to work around this, but there is help. And if you admit that you need help, then you can get the necessary help. And if you have any further questions, please leave them in the comment section or send them to us on WhatsApp. The number is 061 766 0355. You are listening to the Mariam Kondo Show on Salam Media. We will be right back.